The Brothers Karamazov, Book 1, Chapter 5. This is the end of Book 1. Book 1 summarizes the backstory of the brothers Karamazov and their father. So Book 1, Chapter 1 told us about Fyodor. Chapter 2 about Dmitri. Chapter 3 about Ivan. Chapter 4 about Alyosha. Now, one character that at this point seems like he's going to be a major player throughout the whole course of the novel is a very important character, yet he is confined more toward the beginning of the novel, picked up a little bit later, is Father Zosima. And so before any of the action can finally take place beginning in Book 2, we do need some background information about Father Zosima. But first, we need to hear why Alyosha is so attracted to him. So again, the narrator, Dostoevsky, anticipates objections, and they say, well, if a young man has any seminary aspirations, if a young man wants to become a monk, then he must be sickly and he must be stupid. Only a frail, weak coward who is kind of dumb would have any sort of religious belief. And the narrator, speaking for Dostoevsky, says, no, you can't say that. This is a healthy man. He is an attractive young man, and yes, he chose not to finish college, but not because it was too hard, but because he wanted to pursue love and righteousness and ideals. So he loved Father Zosima, and that's why he skipped his last year of college. So this is a healthy of mind and healthy of body and healthy in appearance young man. You can't say he's not attractive. You can't say he's not smart. You can't say he's not healthy. And then he gives a explanation of Alyosha's faith that is key to understanding the rest of the novel. I shall be told, perhaps, so here's the narrator anticipating objections. I shall be told perhaps, that red cheeks are not incompatible with fanaticism and mysticism, but I fancy that Alyosha was more of a realist than anyone. Did you hear that? But I fancy that Alyosha was more of a realist than anyone. Oh, no doubt. In the monastery, he fully believed in miracles. But to my thinking, miracles are never a stumbling block to the realist. It is not miracles that dispose realists to belief. The genuine realist, if he is an unbeliever, will always find strength and ability to disbelieve in the miraculous. And if he is confronted with a miracle as an irrefutable fact, he would rather disbelieve his own senses than admit that fact. Even if he admits it as a fact of nature, till then unrecognized by him. Faith does not, in the realist, spring from the miracle, but the miracle from faith. Read that again. Faith does not, in the realist, spring from the miracle, but the miracle from faith. If the realist once believes, then he is bound by his very realism to admit the miraculous also. The Apostle Thomas said that he would not believe till he saw, but when he did see, he said, "My Lord and my God." Was it the miracle that forced him to believe? Most likely not. But he believed solely because he desired to believe, and possibly he fully believed in his secret heart, even when he said, "I do not believe till I see." In other words, Dostoevsky is saying not only is Alyosha a Christian, he's a particular type of Christian. So in Western Christianity, in the Catholic tradition, St. Augustine and others, church fathers, said things about the relationship between reason and faith. And what was said by the Western church fathers is that faith seeks understanding. In other words, we believe in order to understand. We don't speculate with some view from nowhere, some rationalism that is just in this neutral plane outside of the earth, and then we arrive at Christianity once we've reasoned toward it. No, we believe, and then inside of our belief, we start to work out that understanding. C.S. Lewis, picking up on St. Augustine's way of looking at the relation between reason and faith, said in a famous phrase, "I believe in Christianity as I believe in the sun. Well, how do you believe in the sun? By the sun, you see everything else. So what happens when you stare at the sun directly? Well, you're blinded and you can't see anything. But if you use the sun for what the sun is for, the sun illumines everything else. And so Lewis, channeling St. Augustine, who I think is fairly comparable to that paragraph just read, the faith seeks understanding. We believe first, and then you proceed in life in that belief, and then your experience either deepens your faith or is lost in your faith. And that is, for our purposes right now, somewhat of an existential version of Christianity, where reason doesn't come first. Rather, a radical leap of faith comes first. And then once you've made that radical leap of faith, you start to see that when you've acted upon your faith first, then the reason just follows suit, and everything in your worldview tends to just click into place once you've already believed. And then miracles can help your faith, but your faith isn't based on miracles. And so we see the challenges if you're a Christian, but you don't have the existential worldview that Dostoevsky is promoting. If your faith is based on the miraculous, well, what happens when there is no miracle to believe in? Then what is left of your faith? So that is an important paragraph to know. Rather, he says, Alyosha is after something else. He's not after mysticism. He's not after miracles. He's not after, the devil made me do it, or there's angels doing all this stuff. He's not anti-rational, and he's not using Christianity as a crutch. Rather, he's after something. Now, here is the narrator describing Alyosha's faith. As soon as he reflected seriously, he was convinced of the existence of God and immortality. And at once he instinctively said to himself, I want to live for immortality, and I will accept no compromise. In the same way, if he had decided that God and immortality did not exist, he would at once have become an atheist and a socialist. For socialism is not merely the labor question. It is before all things the atheistic question. The question of the form taken by atheism today, the question of the Tower of Babel built without God, not to mount to heaven from earth, but to set up heaven on earth. Alyosha would have found it strange and impossible to go on living as before. It is written, give all that thou hast to the poor and follow me, if thou would be perfect. So this is a major theme of the novel that I've already mentioned. Fyodor embodies a worldview governed by vice. That is the problem, is that there are too many Fyodors in Russia in the 19th century. And what are the two competing solutions? Ivan's rationalism in order to maybe get to a utopian state, or Alyosha's works, love first, in order to get to a belief that it also encompasses the mystical and the supernatural. In other words, Fyodor's worldview is the problem. A lack of honesty, a love of vice, a lack of virtue, a love of strong drink, a love of sexual immorality is the problem. The solution for both Ivan, or rather I should say, the goal for both Ivan and Alyosha is the same. It is heaven on earth. And so Dostoevsky's task is really to prove what is the way to get to heaven on earth. Is it through reason or is it through faith? Is it through Ivan or is it through Alyosha? Now, of course, Alyosha thinks the way to get there is to follow the teaching and follow the life example of Elder Zosima, and that's what this chapter is about. And we see the office of elder, which really isn't too hard to understand. It's just like a mentor or a spiritual advisor. I keep using the image of Master Yoda, and it seems like that's how he functions to young Alyosha. And as this book 1 comes to a close, we have the scene set for what will happen in book 2. We've got Dmitri, who demands an inheritance, wanting Ivan to arbitrate the disagreement, to vouch for him in the disagreement with Fyodor. So Fyodor and Dmitri at loggerheads, at odds, with Ivan hopefully vouching for Dmitri, but now going to Father Zosima to have him hear their dispute. And so Alyosha cares a lot about what Zosima thinks of him. He knows that his brother Ivan is no Christian. He knows that his brother Dmitri is no Christian. So he knows that the very basis of their inquiry into Father Zosima's opinion of whose money is who and what Fyodor owes Dmitri, he knows that the whole thing is false, that they're all play acting, and he's embarrassed because he cares a lot about Father Zosima. He cares a lot about Father Zosima's time, and the last thing he wants to do is bring in his family to just play act before him and act like they care about what God or what Zosima's interpretation of what God thinks about their little family quarrel is. Zosima is so forgiving, such a friend of sinners, that he says it's no matter, he's not above anyone. And so that sets the stage for book 2. We've got Dmitri mad at his dad, Fyodor mad at the world, Alyosha, a young man, a little bit embarrassed and a little bit ashamed of his family, and Ivan, who has just published an article about ecclesiastical courts versus secular courts, all coming to see Father Zosima, who is this wise teacher who doesn't condemn anyone and who thinks he's no better than anyone. And now they're all coming to the monastery to hear the dispute, to hear the case between Dmitri and Fyodor. And that's what happens in book 2.